You know what, Brian? I've had an epiphany this week. You gotta be yourself, Brian. You know what else I learned? I had a small conversation with the Dean's administrative assistant, Charles. And he told me the Dean doesn't even know what YouTube is. Let's let the art of the shop be what the art of the shop should be. We're gonna have a theme to today's show, Brian. We're talking about limited palettes. Limited palettes are wonderful tools. It is a constraint you put on yourself. This Dracolich Vanguard is a wonderful example of limited palettes. 2, 3 colors tops, and you play around in those colors, Brian. One of my favorite things to do to my students, Brian, is give them what I call Professor M. Chester Conus's choice. And I'd write out little constraints on pieces of paper, and I'd put it in a hat, and I'd have them choose randomly what piece of paper and what constraint they'd have on their painting. One was like, you can only use browns. Oh, that was my favorite. Students hated that one. Woo! Let's talk some more about limited palettes, Brian. This is another good example. Final Boss Traveler. Oh, I love that meat. Love it. Limited palettes is what we're talking about, right, Brian? Here's another fine example. Greens and yellows and blacks. If you're an artist, give yourself constraints on a project. It'll force you to get better. And what was I talking about, Brian? Oh, I love what our shop produces. I know this series is meant to be somewhat of a silly thing at times, and perhaps on occasion I might get off topic. But in general, the art of the shop is really wonderful and what this is all about. You know what the worst thing is about this shit series, Brian?
What?
The Dean. Oh, look at this, Brian. This is the middle panel of a hit or miss Valhalla screen in Padoke. Some people say Padook, I say Padoke. And this is a wonderful example of nature's limited palette. Do you see that? It's orange and red, darks and lights. Wonderful piece. And do you know the significance of the sculpt, Brian? 21. Do you remember when you turned 21? Because I sure do not. Wait, you're over 21, aren't you, Brian?
Yeah.
Why don't you sit down? Let's talk about Padoke over a beer. Come join me. This is exciting. Oh, wonderful noise. Love the ceremony of opening a beer, don't you, Brian?
Yep.
You know what's interesting? You are the first guest I've had on this show on the Art of the Shop. First guest ever.
I know.
First one ever. It's amazing. Cheers. Cheers.
Lancha.
How do you feel about the Dean? Because
seems all right.
these are... Of course you'd say that, Brian. This has been an episode of the Art of the Shop, and it has been thankfully Dean-free, which is a goddamn blessing.